I actually had quite a difficult time narrowing down my picks for the high IQ and tactics video a few months back, and after much deliberation, the final results mostly boiled down to innovative mind games.
We filled the world.
However, things couldn't be any further removed today, with boxers throughout history showing no end to questionable tactics and strategies. And let's be honest, with most elite fighters having only a handful of losses on their resume, their bad nights in the ring are more often than not the most memorable ones.
Secondly, finally when the bell rang, Elijah Tillery stuck his face out and Riddick Bowe just hit it.
That being said, a trigger warning is being issued to all hardcore boxing fans. Prepare to relive all those nights you spent screaming at your television being the best backseat boxing trainer you could be. If you enjoy the content around here, a thumbs up is always appreciated. Here now, BLTV presents When Boxers Display Negative IQ. Defeating a 2010 version of David Haye was a tall order for any heavyweight. The likes of John Ruiz and Nikolai Valuev discovered either trading with him ends badly or fighting at low tempo results in losing on points. What was the strategy to beat him? Well, the former Olympic gold medalist Audley Harrison had it all worked out.
But trust me, this ain't going to be the fight that you don't think it is. That's all I know. If you don't think this is going to be a mismatch, you lot are dizzy. You don't know boxing. It's as simple as that. People who know boxing just phone me and they are David, you are going to be in the fight of your life. Trust me. And that's the bottom line.
The clips of Audley relaying his effortless strategy to defeat Haye were endless, and there were fans out there that hung onto every word.
The hype has been deafening, but now the truth is the action that's about to unfold.
Audley towered Haye on the night, but yet in the most bizarre of circumstances, the big man forgot that in order to win a fight, you have to at least throw a single punch.
Hits very hard, and he hurts, and he's going to finish it here. I think he does finish it all over in round 3.
As Haye literally punched the snot out of Harrison's nose, it dawned on the fans that not only was this the biggest waste of money ever, yes, this fight was on pay-per-view, but Harrison didn't even land a single punch. Not one. Over the course of 3 rounds.
Audley Harrison told us it was his destiny that he would knock you out with his left hand. He hasn't said anything else for about the last 10 weeks. He was bitterly disappointing, wasn't he?
Yeah.
For a fighter with so much experience and physical advantages, there was absolutely no excuse. The British Board of Control deliberated whether to withhold Harrison's purse due to the possibility of him losing on purpose. But in the end, they couldn't prove it otherwise, and the hard-earned money from the fans entered the pockets of 3 genius conmen.
But I can assure you that I will be in there at some point in that fight. I'm going to land my left hand on.
Trinidad much more willing to let his hands go, and then De La Hoya fires the jab right up the pipe.
It was the better boxer that stole the show in the opening half of the bout, however, with Oscar De La Hoya boxing a near-perfect fight, using decent lateral movement, firing precise combinations, and dare I say making the legendary Tito look like a limited fighter. And then, for reasons boxing fans will never know, Oscar decided the fight was over, got on his bike, and backed away as if he was closing out the final rounds of the fight, when in reality, there were still 7 rounds to go.
Now he's trying to close the show by guaranteeing a victory for himself simply by staying away from Trinidad.
Oscar could hold a shot and had the endurance to keep forcing the action, so when we saw him running away, losing round after round due to a few glancing blows, the HBO commentary team were, as were the fans at home, left perplexed by such a questionable strategy.
George, you tell me, do you think that De La Hoya has won the fight the way he's fought the last several rounds?
I don't think so. I think he had the fight in control, and now he's leaving it in the hand of the judges.
Whether you like him or not, you could always count on Larry Merchant to dig deep in post-fight interviews to get the answers boxing fans wanted.
Because your plan didn't work?
My plan did work. I thought it did work, but hey, I mean, he's a good fighter. He's a great champion. I praise him a lot, and hopefully we can do it again.
It took a while to sink in, but eventually De La Hoya realized the grave error he made in not closing the show that night. And to rub salt in the wounds, the rematch negotiations broke down multiple times before coming to a halt altogether, leaving the fans wondering what the outcome of a full 12-round war would have been.
And I was protecting the rounds I had in the bag, which were most of the fight.
But this is his first time at middleweight, so
now he faces Trinidad's left hook. And this is a Mayorga tactic.
Fighters dropping their hands in an attempt to goad their opponent has happened countless times over the years, with Naseem Hamed and Ricardo Mayorga being the first many boxing fans will think of when it comes to this stupid but often crowd-pleasing strategy.
Let's go ringside for the call.
However, the 2004 matchup between Robbie Pedden and Nate Campbell is the only time I can remember the goading getting punished to full extent.
What a shock! Nate Campbell all but had that fight won with those body shots, stood up, played with his opponent.
It was actually a close contested fight until Campbell did that. What was going through his head?
It doesn't matter who you are. You stand up with your hands down in front of a professional prize fighter at this level, you will get knocked out.
Kenny the Golovkin, man. I'm coming for you. I'm coming for your belts, man.
Chris Eubank Jr., son of the former long-reigning middleweight champion, Chris Sr., has had the strangest and most deviating career among all of the top fighters today.
This is the best fighter in the world. I mean, in my view, that this man is going to be better than Floyd Mayweather Jr.
A gym rat that's always primed and ready for battle, Eubank Jr. rarely lets down the crowd, often disguising his lack of boxing skills with his interminable engine, forcing some of the sport's top competitors to engage in an ugly but albeit exciting brawl.
Less than 20 seconds to go in the round. Desperate times for James DeGale. Eubank going looking for him.
The Eubank camp has been a circle of delusion for quite some time, with the two Chris's and head coach Ronnie Davies seemingly convinced that their man is not only above his rivals in terms of boxing skill, but so advanced there's simply nothing left for him to learn.
Me and his father, he don't need a bit, he's there. He knows what to do. He knows more than the trainers, he's brilliant. The kid, you can't show him nothing.
Being confident is fine, but this sort of delusion can hurt a fighter's progression, especially someone like Eubank that honestly looks as much of a novice today as he did on his debut.
That one did get through. George short with the counter that followed up, but again it's another winging wild right hand from Eubank.
George Groves beat some sense into him, however, and Eubank has since traveled across the pond to acquire mentorship from the former pound-for-pound star Roy Jones Jr. How this pairing will work remains to be seen. Yet one thing we do know is that Jr.'s delusion as to his own ability has only increased, with the recent comments he made regarding Kell Brook and Liam Williams confirming the fallacy continues.
Liam Williams has called you out a couple of times. Is that a fight that you could possibly see down the line?
I have no idea who Liam Williams is.
On July 11th, 1996, two heavyweight titans squared off in an attempt to establish themselves as the #1 contender for the heavyweight crown. Riddick Bowe, a great warrior that had already convincingly beaten the likes of Evander Holyfield, was also plagued by his fair share of in-ring controversies. Andrew Golota, a wild street thug from Poland, who although possessed skill in abundance, more often than not couldn't resist stooping to dirty tactics whenever things weren't going his way.
And there's even a face of Riddick on there with a little caption that says Big Daddy.
Bowe wasn't quite the fighter he once was, with his brutal 3-fight series with Evander Holyfield clearly taking their toll on both his physical and mental health. Golota was fresh, however, having a career stacked with victories over journeymen, which gave him the confidence to go out there and do a number on Bowe. And that's precisely what he did. Golota's dirty tactics started creeping in as early as the second round, landing a few shots below the belt that issued a warning from referee Wayne Kelly. Golota continued his antics again in round 3 before losing a point in the 4th for yet again another blatant low blow.
There's a point deducted from each of the 3 scorecards. That point goes against Golota.
Golota continued to dominate Bowe over the next couple of rounds, making his second point deduction in the latter stages of the 6th even more perplexing.
Golota starting to fall in love with his ability to hammer Bowe up top, and now another low blow.
Golota's corner looked him dead in the eye and told him to keep his hands up or you're gonna get disqualified. Golota stood up for round 7, walked across the ring, and would you believe it, aimed straight for the private parts once again.
Hammering Bowe in close. Just hammering it. That was another low blow. Down goes Bowe, and that's it.
Golota got instantly disqualified, erupting a 15-minute riot between both camps and fans. Poor Luduva barely escaped the madness with his life. The two met again a mere 5 months later, where once again Golota thoroughly outboxed and beat up Bo before, would you believe it, he got disqualified again for another continuous set of illegal shots below the belt.
He's disqualified Golota again!
It goes without saying that Golota was a disturbed individual, and we saw more controversial moments as his career continued. Still, it's impossible to pinpoint why he was so infatuated by foul play, one of the most enigmatic figures in boxing history.
He had the plan, he had everything there, and his instinct makes him fight like a street fighter, as if he's fighting in a bar or in a street.
Filming a semi-professional bout to show to friends and family is fine, but when that footage makes its way onto YouTube, you better hope you got some skills.
He light jogging, he does weightlifting, he does hiking, he meditates, and he dodges cars at busy intersections.
Yes, you heard that right. The guy on the left here, known simply as the Shadow, apparently created the art of elusive fighting, and those unprecedented skills were honed by dodging cars at busy intersections.
If people can learn how to fight this way, they'll never get hit and they can take out their opponent. Well, here it goes. Oh, big bomb by the bouncer, another one. Nice elusive moves. I see that working. He's got his hands down. Now he's on the run. He's really on the run. He's using the referee for a shield.
I think that's the problem, Don.
There's ropes in the way. The ropes are in the way. He can't maneuver now. Oh, nice footwork, too. He's down.
I always have a good laugh when watching this back. Even someone as unskilled as Insane Zane here taught him a lesson. The funniest part of all of this is the fact the Shadow was planning on releasing an educational DVD showcasing his elusive moves. I'm not sure if it was ever released, but if it was, that is a piece of lost media the world desperately needs.
Look at the refs. You don't use me for a human shield again.
And I'm gonna get right over you. I'm gonna step right over you. I walk this earth like a god.
There were so many bad game plans that I considered listing here. The first meeting between Ray Leonard and Roberto Duran, George Foreman's strange box and move approach in the Jimmy Young fight, to even more recent bouts like Chavez Jr. and Callum Smith versus Canelo Alvarez. But the one that always springs to my mind in this regard is the reckless approach Michael Grant took in the opening stages against Lennox Lewis.
But the real issue tonight is Michael Grant good enough?
Grant, a big, strong, undefeated contender that, although he gets his fair share of stick today, was a worthy challenger back then, given how his career had panned out thus far. Lennox, on the other hand, was the best heavyweight in the world, but definitely had issues when it came to concentration, a flaw that played a factor in his 2 and only career losses.
These are two Goliaths. It's Goliath versus Goliath.
Devising a plan to beat Lennox was always going to be a tall order, but the best bet was to try and slow things down, get him disinterested, and catch while he wasn't paying attention. What does Grant do? Well, just charges right out of the gate, swinging like a novice, and he gets himself knocked out.
Early thunder from Grant. Lewis tries to fire back, and Michael Grant just illustrated it by pounding a right hand through it.
Exchanging the right hands. He shouldn't be overthrowing them right now. Vaseline in your mouth.
Worked to survive the last minute of round 1. Lewis lands a right hand on the top of the head. Grant trying to fire back. Ropes held him up.
Lewis has still got to be won.
That should do it. That's it. That should do it.
That's it. He's broke his leg.
The plan to attack Lennox Lewis just backfired. Were you shocked that he came at you the way he did?
Yeah, I was shocked. I said if he came at me, it was going to be a short fight. You know, I was surprised when they said he was going to come at me, straight at me. I was surprised because I'm the hardest fight in his whole career.
Grant had always shown decent endurance before the fight, and his most significant wins thus far came by knockout in the championship rounds. What made him think going all guns blazing against a fearsome counterpuncher like Lennox Lewis would be a good idea?
If you had it to do all over again, would you trust your boxing skills more than you did tonight?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I went to a straight grudge match, and I shouldn't have did that. That was stupidity on my part.
For those of you that watched the 2000 IQ video from a while back, you'll remember that our ending segment was focused on the clever ploy exhibited by the Irish boxer Steve Collins, who went on to fool Chris Eubank by pretending to be in a trance-like state, unstoppable due to the power of hypnosis.
I don't know what I'm dealing with tonight. I'm fighting someone who is mechanically
orientated.
Yes, it was even more ridiculous than it sounds, but remarkably, Collins wasn't the first man to try this tactic. On February 25, 1989, the big punching Brit Frank Bruno met the undisputed heavyweight champion Mike Tyson in a clash for all the belts.
12 rounds of boxing for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world.
Bruno, a mountain of a man that, under heavy scrutiny, is often criticized for his resume or lack thereof, but in his prime was certainly a man respected amongst his peers.
What a punch, what a delivery.
People weren't exactly queuing up to take on this monster. Tyson respected Bruno, the skills he possessed, and the crowds he attracted, but he was under no illusion to the fact he was a heavy favorite heading into the contest. Bruno was under an illusion, however, bringing in the world-renowned hypnotist Paul McKenna to boost his mental capacity.
As a lion going against the zebra, and I'd have to agree. Let's see how quick he starts. Bruno tries to keep him off. Bruno showing that he's not afraid, hanging on. Bruno's already tagged with the right hand, and there goes Bruno!
Unlike Eubank, Tyson paid no attention to the hypnosis and continued to dominate Bruno in both of their fights.
Oh, a left hook by Mike Tyson, flush on the face of Frank Bruno. Another left, and a combination by Tyson.
Hypnosis aside, it was like Bruno entered these fights with no real game plan at all. One minute, he was trading. The next, he was running, arm locks, headlocks, rabbit punches, and to top it off, he even switched to southpaw for the first time in his entire fighting career. A puzzling move that resulted directly in him being TKO'd.
An uppercut by Tyson. Tyson laying it on, pouring it on. Down goes Bruno into the ropes.
I would never criticize a man for being beaten by an ATG like Mike Tyson, regardless of the effort put forward, except Bruce Seldon. That was a clear dive. But the way Frank approached this fight always bothered me because he never showcased his full potential. Watch back the full fight or even the highlights of Frank Bruno's title fight against Lennox Lewis in 1993, and you'll know what I mean. Now that was Frank at his absolute best.
That's a good overhand right from Bruno. Did Lewis take that? He looks in a spot of...
Thanks for watching. If you enjoy the content around here, a thumbs up would be greatly appreciated. Until next time, this is Boxing Legends TV, signing off.